we just witnessed one of the most historic playoff runs in NBA history by the Denver Nuggets, led by Nikola Jokic. This postseason, Jokic became the first player in NBA history to lead the entire playoffs in points, rebounds, and assists. He became the first player in NBA Finals history to record a 30, 20, and 10 game. And he also had the most triple-doubles in a single postseason with 10. And then, of course, he capped that off with an NBA Finals MVP trophy that he looked at for about 5 seconds and then put back down. But after this incredible performance by Jokic, it got a lot of people talking, as people do after the finals. They start with the legacy talk, they start ranking players, and there was conversations this week that I saw about whether Nikola Jokic is a top 5 center of all time. I also saw discussions about whether he's the best big man in NBA history. And so I just wanted to chime in and share my thoughts about where I think Nikola Jokic ranks in NBA history after this playoff run. And really, it's not just been this playoff run, it's been the last 3 seasons, which started with back-to-back MVPs for Jokic and then the title this year. So first, is Nikola Jokic a top 5 center of all time? This was an interesting debate or little argument I had in my head for this one, because on first thought, it's like, that's interesting. Maybe he is. But then you start looking at the names, and I'm going to present maybe 10 to 12 names here, no particular order, and kind of how I rank them, and then I'll have a discussion about where I think Jokic ranks. So if you start out in no particular order, you've got the top 5 centers of all time, in my opinion, are Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, Shaq, Wilt Chamberlain, and Hakeem Olajuwon. That's the top 5 centers. Then there's a bit of a drop-off. And then there's Moses Malone, David Robinson. Another little bit of a drop-off. You've got George Mikan, Bill Walton, Dwight Howard, Robert Parrish, guys like that. So if you were to look at Jokic, well, there's kind of 2 things you have to do here. There's Jokic, the basketball player, and his impact on the game. And then there's Jokic and his greatness and his career accolades. In terms of who is the best basketball player on this list, as far as the way they affect the game and make their teammates better and everything like that, I think there's a legit argument that Jokic could fit in the top 5. In terms of just pure skill, I think there's an argument for it. Personally, though, if you go and look at greatness and career achievements, then I don't think Jokic belongs in the top 5 quite yet. He's got to win at least 2 more rings, in my opinion, to be in that conversation. Now, if you start looking at some of these names, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jokic is not better than Kareem. I think that's pretty easy to say. Kareem is, in my opinion, the 3rd best player of all time. So Jokic is not better than Kareem. Bill Russell. Jokic is not better than Bill Russell. Russell is one of the greatest defensive players ever. He's got 11 rings, and his impact on the game was incredible. Jokic is not better than Bill Russell. Wilt Chamberlain. Now, this is where it starts getting a little interesting. Wilt holds tons of NBA records, but Jokic has started matching some of them. So there's a little bit of a conversation to be had, but I still don't think Jokic is better than Wilt yet. Shaquille O'Neal, the most dominant player of all time. He's got 4 rings, did it with 2 different teams. Jokic, in my opinion, is not better than Shaquille O'Neal. And then you've got Hakeem Olajuwon. And Hakeem, one of the greatest defensive players of all time, 2 championship rings. Personally, I'm not ready to put Jokic above Hakeem either. So, top 5 center of all time, Nikola Jokic, not yet. Looking at some of these other names, Moses Malone, one of the most underrated superstars in NBA history. He's got 3 MVPs. I think there's an argument that Jokic could go above Moses, but there's still a debate there. David Robinson, he won a couple of championships, played next to Tim Duncan. Incredible athlete, incredible defensive player. I think, personally, I'd probably be comfortable putting Jokic above Robinson. It's a difficult one again, just because it's only been 3 years where Jokic has really been playing at this extraordinary level. And then moving down the list, Bill Walton, yep, think he's better than Bill Walton, better than Dwight Howard. George Mikan kind of played in a different era, so I should have mentioned this earlier, but it's kind of difficult to compare across eras. But all things considered, I think I would take Jokic over Mikan. I would take Jokic over Parrish. So I think Jokic is a top 10 center of all time already, for sure. But top 5, I don't think he's quite there yet. Do I think he can get there? Yeah, I do. I do think he can get there. I think if the Nuggets are able to keep their team together and make it to a bunch more finals in the next 5 years or so, maybe they win 2 or 3 more, yeah, I'd be happy to move Jokic in. I think if Jokic wins a couple more titles, you could move him over Hakeem. And at that point, it really just becomes a numbers game. Shaq had 4, Wilt only had 2, but the overall just pure dominance and the number of records that he has makes it difficult to put Jokic above him yet. But he's started beating his records, like the triple-double record from this postseason run. Jokic had 10. I believe Wilt had 7 in one playoff run. I think we could look back and that Jokic could end up being a player that kind of rewrites some of the center records and just records in general. The thing is, though, we can sit here and talk about Jokic like this, but he literally does not care. He didn't care when he won 2 MVPs. He was the last pick in the All-Star game, or second to last pick, because he picked himself. And that was because Jokic is not an All-Star game player. It wasn't a shot at his skill level or his dominance or anything like that. And I think Jokic even said it himself. He's not an All-Star game player. And so I think what is going to determine how far Jokic moves up this list is how much he cares. He clearly cares about winning, that's for sure. But he does not care about stats. He doesn't care about accolades. I mean, he just won his first NBA title in dominant fashion. A historic run. And he was barely even celebrating. Like, they're asking him after the game, like, how does he feel? And I saw a tweet, it's like he just had a regular season game against Detroit in November. It's just all business for him. He's like, we won, now we can go home. And he was also joking about not wanting to go to the parade on Thursday because he just wants to go home. I don't understand how anyone could not like Nikola Jokic. So humble, no ego, makes his teammates better, is excited when his teammates succeed. So he's been a joy to watch in the last 3 years, and especially this playoff run. It's very validating to see him succeed at this level, to do it at this level. I'm excited for what the future is for Jokic, one of the greats. People are talking about him being top 20, top 25 all time. I think there's a legitimate case for that. He's that good. And it's only the start. Just enjoy it. Nikola Jokic. Respect.